In the last lesson, we created a rectangle class. I demonstrated how to call the constructor for the superclass shape in order to add the XY properties to our rectangle. And then we tried to write a toString, and it didn't work correctly because we weren't making a call to the superclass's toString method in order to display the XY coordinates as well as the height and the width of our rectangle. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to fix that. First of all, let's copy our rectangle program from the last lesson, which I titled rectangle p1.rb, and let's call this rectangle p2.rb. Now let's open up rectangle part 2 or p2.rb. So here's our definition. We have our shape class, then we have our rectangle class. And we saw that when we tried to write out the toString method for our rectangle object R1, all it displayed was what we had defined for the superclass shape. So if we want to add the information into our toString method for a rectangle, we have to create yet another definition for toString specifically for a rectangle. But we don't have to write in all the code, as I'm going to show you. So let's go into the rectangle class, and we'll begin our definition of toString. And the way we do that is we're going to first make a call to super, just like we did in the constructor. Except this time we're going to just write print super. When we do that, the system knows that what we're talking about is print the toString method for the superclass for rectangle, because we've defined it inside toString. So by doing this, we're going to get the XY coordinates that we want. Then we can add another print to our definition to include the height and the width. Now, one thing we also want to do here to make sure we don't have any problems is take these numeric values and toString them like that. And then we end our definition. Make sure we have an end to our class. Here's our original object. Let's create one new object just for fun. So what we should see when we execute this program are all of the properties for our two rectangle objects. So let's save the file. Come back to our command line prompt. Let's clear the screen just to make it clear. And so our first rectangle has an x coordinate of 5, a y coordinate of 10, a height of 3, and a width of 7. Our second rectangle object had a x coordinate of 1, a y coordinate of 2, a height of 4, and a width of 2. And of course, if you don't like it to be height, width, you'd rather have width, height, then of course you can change those around in the definition. So let's look at the definition one more time. When we redefine a superclass's method, that's called overriding the method, because the rectangle object inherits the toString method from its superclass shape. But the definition of toString for shape does not include the new properties we've added for a rectangle. So to do that, we have to override the superclass's definition of toString to include the extra information that we need for a rectangle, the height and the width. But we don't have to completely rewrite all the code because we can, again, make a call to super to get that information from the superclass's toString method, which still saves us some coding. And once again demonstrates why it's advantageous sometimes to use inheritance when you're creating objects that are similar to each other. So that wraps up this lesson on how to override the toString method. Now we're going to move on to the next lesson where we're going to create yet another shape using the shape superclass.